Hello, everybody. A short video. I want to chat a little bit about why I just pre-ordered the Tamron 17 to 28. It's going to be kind of an informal, a little bit more relaxed style video because I'm just broadcasting it live due to time constraints. That was just the easiest way to get a video out to you all. I'm going to wait just a minute and have a couple more folks join us, but then I'm just going to kind of dive in. I'm talking today about the just pre-order available Tamron 17 to 28 f2.8 for Sony. And I have not tested that lens yet, but I pre-ordered it last night the moment it became available. I've been shooting now with the Tamron 28 to 75 for just over a year. I was just on the B&H website comparing specs, and they do that nice little link where they show you when you last ordered it. I ordered this lens on 5/11/2018. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. If you're watching right now, thank you so much for jumping into this quick little live video where I'm going to talk a little bit about the Tamron 17 to 28, why I'm excited about it. Go ahead and give that thumbs up a click. That's always nice. If you're watching this and you're not a subscriber, awesome. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button too. It really helps me out. I am headed towards 300,000 subscribers. It's taken me a while to get there, but that's a pretty exciting number. So your subscription really, it's nice. It's a nice little thing that doesn't cost you anything and sets us up for success here. Thanks so much. And make sure you say hi in the chat as well. It'd be lovely for you to say hello. Don't be shy. Okay. So the Tamron 17 to 28 f2.8 for Sony was announced back in early February, but with no further details, no pricing information, no release information, just Tamron said that was coming. We've been waiting on it and waiting on it. My good friend Tim just asked me the other day, he said, when is it going to be available? Funny enough, it happened this week. Last night, pre-orders went live, last night on the Pacific Coast. Let's just say yesterday. Pre-orders went live yesterday. To give you a little background, though, I've already tested the Tamron 28 to 75. Not only tested it, but I've been shooting with it for over a year. Let me share a couple of my favorite pictures. In short, though, if you haven't seen my review of this lens, it's fantastic. It came out at a $799 price tag. It doesn't blow away the GM version, but it's at least as good, and in some cases better than the 24 to 70 GM from Sony, which is what, $2,200 or $2,400 lens, a $799. Now they have raised the price on this slightly since. It now comes in at about just under 900, 8 something. So they raised it by 80 bucks, 10%-ish or so. So that's interesting. It's also back ordered, hard to get your hands on because it is just fantastic. I feel that way after a year of using it. My one concern was, will I miss or would I miss the slightly wider focal length, the 24 part of that? And I have missed it a couple of times. A couple. Is it enough for me to spend 3 times the money? And more these days, I really like traveling with a light pack. It's not worth that weight to me. And so being able to now pair it up with this other lens that's going to be great for astrophotography, I assume. We'll talk a little bit more about what I know about this lens. And I've linked to the pre-order link along with the main blog post from the folks in German. It seems the German press have been able to get their hands on this, the photographic press. So that's where my one main review is coming from. So I've missed that a little bit, but being able to pair with the 17 to 28 is very, very exciting. But let me just share real quick a couple of my favorite pictures that I've taken with this lens over the last couple of weeks. I should have put them in a folder first, shouldn't I? So that I didn't have to look around for them and find them. They are right here. And if I do that and then come over to, sorry, I'm not as do you see what I see then? Gosh, should have prepared a little bit better. Let's just open them in Photoshop. And then we'll real quick go through there. Sorry. Okay. So this lens now has traveled with me for about a year and, or actually just a little bit over. And so I'm just sharing some of my favorite pictures. No issues with sharpness, clarity, contrast, some slight vignetting, but easily correctable in Lightroom. I've just found it a fantastic lens. This is samples from the 28 to 75. I mean, one of my favorite all-time pictures that I've taken, especially in the last year or maybe even the last 5 years, Lake Matheson in New Zealand. Just really, really lovely. A trip to Patagonia. And again, one of the things that I love about this lens is how lightweight and compact it is. And it even uses 67mm filter threads. Now here's a star picture. And so this brings up my next point. We can come back to stop sharing. That was just a couple of pictures I wanted to share. So if you haven't watched this channel, you know I can actually take a picture or two. You can decide whether they're good or not, but I can take them. So 28 is not wide enough for stars. I don't feel. I mean, it can be in some cases, like that shot I just showed you, but a lot of them, not so much. 24 is wide enough for stars. And so that's one of those places where I was like, oh, I would really like just a little bit more. And of course, I would like even a good bit wider for some kind of epic Milky Way shots. We do a photography workshop in Joshua Tree, and it's just lovely to have a Joshua Tree and just big sky-spanning Milky Way. And a wider angle lens makes that nice. I am been working with the IRIX 15mm for a lot of my astrophotography. It's just another good budget-friendly, lightweight lens that you can carry around. But honestly, 15 in a lot of cases feels a little too wide to me these days. And I'm starting to settle back closer to that kind of 18 to 20 to even 24 focal length for being a really nice composition for stars and astrophotography. I don't shoot too wide beyond astrophotography. Kind of daytime, I don't find myself shooting wide unless you can find one of those really epic landscapes with some really neat foreground elements that anchor that. Then I think it's a struggle. But anyway, you didn't tune in to hear me go on and on about this lens, but I think it sets the stage for talking about this new Tamron 17 to 28. So let me share my screen again. I'm going to do it better this time because I think we have, well, that's the back end, but we can come over here and we can go right to, here it is. So just announced, announced in February, just pre-ordered now. We'll be shipping in just under a month. So again, because of the issues with the back order, with the 28 to 75, I went ahead and got my pre-order in right now, even though I haven't heard from anybody else that I know who's tested this lens yet. We'll talk a little bit about one of the reviewers that I found. But again, how well they did with the 28 to 75, I suspect that this lens is going to be excellent as well. And so if you're interested, I'd go ahead and get your pre-orders in. There's a link right down below this video. But just let's compare for a minute. So it's a 17 to 28. It's a constant f2.8 aperture range. And 67mm filter threads, that's the same as a 28 to 75, so very small filters you can use. And again, that kind of saves weight and space in your bag. And it comes in at 14.8 ounces or 420 grams, so under a pound, If we switch over to the Sony for a second, here we are, the Sony 16 to 35. First off, let's look at price. This is a $2,200 lens. I've shot with a Sony a good bit. I have a review and a test and a comparison of it against something like the Sigma 14 to 24. And the Sony is a fantastic lens. Very, very nice. But at $2,200. Now, what's the difference? Well, we'll get to that one blog post in a second that talks about sharpness. I do not think you're giving up any quality issues by going with the Tamron. You are, of course, giving up a millimeter at the wide and a little bit longer at the more narrow range of the focal range. So that 16 to 17, will I miss that as much as I miss 24 to 28? No, definitely not. It's just about 3 degrees at that focal length on a full frame. So it's about 3 degrees you're missing, which can be noticeable, but is not enough of a difference for me to matter. Will I miss it at the other range? Well, obviously, I have the 28 to 75, so I'll be able to switch lenses. I don't suspect that would be much of an issue. But let's go down and look. We've got, it's an 82 millimeter filter thread, so about as big as you get with normal size filters. And it comes in at 1.5 pounds, 680 grams. So over a half a pound of difference. And of course, it's a larger lens. It's almost an inch longer. And again, does an inch sound like a lot? No, but it starts to add up in your bag when you put all of these things together. So I'm very excited about this. Now let's switch over, and I've linked to these guys right down below this video that we're talking about. So this is a German blog post, and they've got it all in English, though. I don't think this is an automatic translation. Their English isn't the best, but basically, you should go take a look at this. I don't want to take away from their traffic, but I will say that they found it to be excellent. And you can just kind of, where do they say that? Right somewhere in here. I thought there was a little conclusion spot. And if you speak German, of course, you can find it even better. So, but they've got all of these nice back and forth, so you can switch back and forth and see a little bit of difference at, and again, that was at 200%. So where is it? Yeah, they're basically saying that. Okay, so the question is not so easy. Anyway, I'm sorry. I thought there was a conclusion right here that I read earlier. And basically, they have found, very similar to what I found when I compared the 24 to 70 and the 28 to 70, is that there's no real changes, no real difference. And in some cases, the 17 to 35 is even a little bit sharper. So that's why I pre-ordered, because my experience with the 28 to 75, I've been very, very satisfied. And I think that Tamron has continued to do a good job with his 17 to 28. And, you know, there was some issues when the 28 to 75 first came out. There was some firmware issues and some autofocus issues that they've fixed with firmware for the most part. Still, it's not the best. If you're mostly a videographer, and you need that autofocus, there are still some hiccups and things of that sort. I usually get focus and then just leave it on manual focus or switch it back off. And I do honestly miss the manual focus switch from time to time on the side. It's just such an easy way in the dark to switch back and forth instead of digging into the menu. But again, the amount of money that you're going to save, the space and the weight in the bag, I'm endorsing this, and of course I'll give my full opinion as soon as I get my hands on one in the end of July. So folks in the chat room, thank you for tuning in. Fourth Urge Rumors says Tamron guys told them that the 17 to 28 is sharper at the 28 than the 28 to 75 is at the same 28 focal length. So this new 17 to 28 is even sharper. That's awesome. Bo says hi. Hey, Bo, nice to see you in here. And Gerald says, I see that you changed the eye cup on your Sony. Do you like that style? Yes, I love this style. I got mine off of eBay. A guy reached out to me when I first upgraded to Sony years ago and offered this. I don't believe he's on eBay anymore selling these, but you can find the Hoodman versions. It pops on and off very easily. Sometimes it gets jammed up in the bag when I don't have a lot of room, but I really like this wider eye cup design. My only complaint about it is that oftentimes you really have to pull the screen out to avoid blocking that back on there. Because it's a much bigger eye cup than the standard one, but it's so comfy. It blocks all of the light. And, you know, one of the things that I love about the mirrorless is how easy it is to review your photos and how easy it is to see through the EVF what exactly you're going to get before you take the picture. So having this on here just makes it that much more of a seamless experience. No seam around the eye. I don't know what I'm talking about. So, all right. And we've got a couple people saying hello from Iran. Thank you for tuning in. I love that YouTube gives me a platform to talk to people all over the world. Tim wonders if B&H is going to have release day delivery. I'm not sure I bought anything from B&H before release day. You know, I don't think they're very good about that. I love B&H. They're my choice. They loan me a lot of the gear that I review to you all, and that is a loan. I have to send those things back. But I don't think they're great about that. That would be nice. I'd love to see that. And Pauline says hello from Australia. Anything else we want to chat about? How long have I been chatting? I don't know. Overall, I'm excited about this. I still wonder if it would be nice for me, I love astrophotography, to pick up something like the Sony 24-14. I mean, that is just an amazing, amazing lens. But how much does that cost? That's like $1,400. And I know it might sometimes seem like, hey, I'm a YouTuber, I got all the monies. No, I don't. I have to really be careful about what I buy. I'm lucky in that I get to test lots of things out. Yeah, the 24 millimeter f1.4 is $1,400. So at some point, it'll be interesting to put that lens against the test against the 17-28 from Tamron. The 24 is just an unbelievable lens. But it's a fixed focal length at 24, which I love for astrophotography, though sometimes want to go a little wider, as I said. And then for general walk around in daytime, that is a little on the wide side for me. So, it doesn't become that useful. So it's a pretty narrow niche lens for me. For a lot of other people, that depending on how you shoot, you might find that fantastic. And the f1.4 is great, but keep in mind, if you're shooting something like a Joshua tree silhouetted against the starry sky, shooting at f1.4, that then does give you such a shallow depth of field that you might not get the tree and the stars nicely in focus in one shot. And then you got a composite. And I don't necessarily want a composite. So you might often find yourself shooting at something like f2.8 with that lens anyway. But still, I love the idea of being able to go f1.4. Maybe if I don't have too many interesting foreground that needs to be in focus, maybe I'm shooting the Aurora Borealis, which we have some opportunities to do this winter. We're going to Alaska. So that would be exciting. So we'll see. And Michael wants to know, with B&H, how does pre-ordering work? If someone ordered it last night and I order one now, are they ahead of me in line? Yes, they are. So that's why you want to get in line. It's nice because you don't actually, it's not like Disney World, you're not standing in line, but go ahead and pre-order. You can always cancel your pre-order too down the road if you want, but if you think you want this lens, and you're a person who has a use for it shortly after it comes out. I mean, I'm not advocating anybody, you have to go get this lens right now. But if you're excited about this, if you've got a trip coming up where that wider angle could be nice, then you really should go ahead and jump in line. And as I said, you can always cancel it later. Palantir is waiting for the Tamron 70-200 f2.8 for Sony. Yes, that's going to be another great lens. Do we think they will do 70-200, or do we think they'll do 75-200, or maybe 75-210, just to be a little different and kind of continue to fit in this lineup? I mean, I just love that we have some really strong third-party options between Tamron and Sigma. I'm a big fan of Sigma too, although I have to say that the way they've kind of done the FE conversion and just built into the lens, the longer flange distance extension, they look a little clunky, and they are big and heavy, but gosh, they're beautiful lenses. Talk about astrophotography when you want to go really wide, that Sigma 14-1.8, that's a lovely lens as well. 82,300 SD, that's a name, says the 24 is great for astro. They have it. They'd love to see it tested against the Tamron 17-28, especially for chromatic aberration. Yes. So chromatic aberration, or coma, as we usually talk about it, is kind of the smearing of the stars near the corner of the edges of the frames. And it can be an issue. We actually, on this most recent Joshua Tree workshop, I had my IREX. Another participant had their IREX because of my recommendations, and their IREX was not was a little decentered. One side of the frame, the stars were all smeared a little bit more than they should. I was a little disappointed. They've reached out to IRIX. IRIX asked for some samples. I need to follow up with him and see. He should get a refund. He should get a replacement or have them bring it in and recalibrate it. So I was disappointed to see that. I actually ended up shooting on that trip on my full frame, that Sony the Sigma 16mm f1.4 for crop. And that gave me a 24 and whatever the aperture works out to be. And I was actually pretty happy with that. That's a nice lens as well. So, but yeah, I'd love to see that as well. And Ricardo says hello from Portugal. And Palantir also owns the 28-75. I'd love to know, since we're just chatting a little bit more, we've got a wish for the 70-200 for Sony system, I suspect. What other third-party or Sony lenses would you see? We've got rumors of more coming this summer. I just checked Sony Alpha rumors the other day. Maybe a new camera from Sony as well. So that's stuff that's fun to talk about down the road. But I think I'm going to wrap this up. If you haven't given this a thumbs up, thank you so much. Thank you for joining for wherever you are. I had a video that went out yesterday talking about geotagging your photos. So if you haven't seen that, go watch. It's about this watch a little bit, but it also gives you some other ways to geotag your photos and the reason why you should geotag your photos. And I want to make it very clear that one person commented, and I want to acknowledge their comment, and that said, I'm not talking about posting your location on Instagram and saying, hey, I took this picture at X or Y spot. I'm talking about tagging your locations to your photos inside Lightroom for you to be able to easily organize and find these as a kind of an extra layer of searchability with your photos down the road. I am on board with not giving specific tags on Instagram these days because we've got too many people that look at that spot and say, I want to go stand there too. And then suddenly we have all of these dirt pathways, erosion, and overloaded areas. So I think you should stick to very general tags or do what Nick Page is doing and basically tags everything Mesa Arch. He did this amazing Pharaoh's Island workshop and everything's tagged Mesa Arch. It confuses some people, but you could do that too, or just keep it general. Like if it's a cool spot in Yellowstone National Park, just tag Yellowstone National Park. Let people figure it out from there. So Sebastian wants to know, what do I think about that new Tamron 17-28 versus the Sigma 14-24 with MC11? Which one do I think would be better choice for image quality? When I tested the 14-24, I found it excellent. I found it on par with the 16-35 in most cases. Hard to tell a difference. 16-35 was a little cleaner looking with lens flare and issues of that sort, but otherwise it was very hard to tell the difference between the two. So based on this blog that I pointed out earlier in this video, this lens is as sharp, if not sharper in some cases than that. So I suspect that this is better. Not only then is you're going to be better with your autofocus and kind of your compact nature. You don't have to deal with the MC11 adapter. That's what I did for 2.5, 3 years. I worked with my Canon lenses and adapters, or Sigma lenses and adapters. And I've gotten tired of it. It works good enough. Some lenses work very good, but there's still that occasional little hiccup here and there. And you just don't get that as much with lenses that mount directly. Native, third party, whatever you want to call that. So we'll see. And hello from Germany. Okay, so those are my thoughts. If you're watching this and the chat's all gone because you're not watching it live, you can leave a comment right down below. As I said, I'd love to know what lens you are most excited to hear announced in the future, either from Sony or a third party for Sony. Or if you're shooting some other manufacturer, let me know. I'd be interested to know, especially if you're shooting Canon RF. If you're shooting the EOS R or the RP, what lens would you like to see from them next? Something a little more affordable than what they got now, please. Or on the Nikon Z side, let me know. So thanks for tuning in from wherever you are. And links are right down below. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe button. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Oh, now we got that awkward part where I have to spin over here and hit the stop broadcast.